Good morning, everybody. And from Preston, I would just like to say thank you for being part of this momentous occasion, as the 1st of February is the kickoff of the new learning platform of IOPSA. We are making history, and you are part of that. The question that comes up is to train or not to train for plumbers. One would see that if you train, it could be a decisive advantage. Because if we look at the statistic shows us that there is less than 1 in 5 plumbers that is qualified. Then we will see every business owner, big or small, is confronted with this question: do I train or don't I train? And hopefully at the end of this session, you would have to consider yourself, have you in actual fact considered the cost if you do not train? Any business compiled their charge rate through one or another process. Now, two of the critical items in this rate calculation is time spent on the job and material used that you have. Now, if you analyze your business results, whether it is daily, weekly, or monthly, these two items above that we've mentioned will come out tops as the culprit if negatively operating within your business. You will see or you will feel you did not meet your expectations or you did not reach your goal, which is measured predominantly in how much money have I got in the bank. The question then is, how do I correct this? How do I increase that money in the bank? And again, if you go to the two biggest culprits, you reduce the time spent on a job or you use less material. And by doing that, you will in actual fact add to your bottom line. The majority of us would then also ask, but then how do I go about reducing time spent and material use? The key lies in planning, improving your planning, and planning in a little bit more detail to ensure that we do not work to go back and redo. There is a large cost. Do it right the first time is the golden rule. The other reason why one should train or participate in training formally or informally, through this training, you add to your bottom line. It helps you to have a long-term sustainable business. You will then stay on top of the competitive environment. We all know how the environment was in actual fact impacted on with COVID-19. You've seen last year the number of webinars that IOPSA offered, and I'm sure you've all experienced how that assisted you to stay on top within this new changed competitive environment. You will also train to improve employability. So in other words, your employees becomes more employable, helps you to carry on, and that improves your specific operations that you are busy with. Now you will find that training takes on various formats. We all look at and say, well, I cannot take an apprentice. It takes 3 years and the cost is just too high. The training that we refer to is, yes, apprentices has to be trained to ensure the sustainability not only of your business, but of our institute and industry. However, the changes that is taking place within our environment, for those of you that is a little bit older than 50 years or more, you would recall that we had cast iron and molten lead in our drainage systems, which today is historical, and that you probably only come across a cast iron pipe in a museum. But those changes with PVC did call for a change in methods and in training. Now we'll find that we have other new products that comes on the line, and that is to be used within our industry. Now, over and above, to ensure that it complies to our SANS code, these new materials and new technologies does call for upskilling or training. So therefore, you'll find that the Digital Plumber is one of the programs where technology and 4IR is included or incorporated into our plumbing systems. It really becomes a challenge if you do not train. You've seen in terms of leak detection, you've seen in terms of drain cleaning, all those specialized equipment which will assist you to stay competitive in an ever-changing environment will call for you to continuously train within this specific changing environment. In terms of training to improve employability, many of us sometimes say, well, I'm going to spend time and effort to train, and then he becomes more employable for my opposition. Might be true in that sense, but if your opposition also continues to train, then the pool just becomes better and our plumbers becomes more employable and move along. If you're not worried so much about just training of your employees, you should also consider, how do you train yourself? You've seen the two items. The one is plan and plan better so that you spend less time. There is not just you wake up and now you do things better. There is a training program, there's an upskilling program, there's a thinking process that you have to go through to ensure that you improve your planning to cut down on that time that you spent at the place of work. Yes, planning is important, and many of us can say, well, I've planned, but there is so many challenges out there that I did not foresee. It is true. But even if you plan for unknown interventions, that will also help you. And then in terms of costing, you've allowed one length of pipe, you've allowed for 2 elbows, 1 tippies, and that type of thing. And off you go, job is done. And when you come back, now you've used 2 tippies and 4 elbows. That has a cost impact on you. As IOPSA, we will continue to unpack these different training interventions to ensure that you are upskilled and that you improve your operations with easy-to-use templates to assist you to again continuously improve the employability of your employees through these different interventions. Now, with that, I am sure you would then agree with myself that in the event that you do not train, you are really putting yourself at risk, and you cannot afford not to train if you want to sustain and grow your business, if you want to stay competitive in the environment into which you operate. And the future shows us that the rate of change is going to increase as we move along. For example, another component in this competitive environment is that from a health and safety perspective, I mean, if we look at COVID and the COVID rules and regulations and components that you had to adhere to, and how does it work? How do you train up your customers to ensure that they feel safe, and all those specific components? It was a prerequisite that you ensure that your employees then follow those specific regulations, those specific steps that had to be taken. And all of that was achieved through training. So training is not just formal. There's a lot of informal components that you do, and we sometimes overlook or get bogged down with the word training. But if you ensure that the message from yourself as business owner is carried through to the last and every one of your employees or workers to ensure that they follow the rules and regulations, they stay safe, they work safe, they consider customer relations, they have a decent line of communication that sort of gives comfort to the actual customer out there. You will find that you will then stay on top within this competitive environment. And then again, we will have a look, for example, plumbing is the only trade in this country at present that has a professional body. So you will find that the professionalizing of the artisan, the professionalizing of the man that works with his hands has been given a kickstart to ensure that we move along in terms of professionalizing our industry, professionalizing our trade, because without plumbers, I do not see a very bright future for South Africa or for the world for that matter. Because without water, we have a crisis. And without handling of water correctly, safely, we will have a health crisis. So again, to train to ensure that those scarce resources are treated well, are treated within the respect it receives, and to improve sanitation. We will see that it becomes more and more important that training in whatever format takes place will be there to improve the employability, but also the professionability of our industry and our trade as a plumber. Thank you.